didn't have it.
Thanks,
Oh,
Eminem.
they're not allowed.
They're not allowed, only mother.
We don't have candy in my house.
That's why she eats it.
Because I'll be eating all of those. I don't mind.
All right.
Sit here.
Afternoon.
I had to,
Is that from Erin? That's all?
I had to rate it. Erin covered. She was okay for me to take 5 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking the stash?
Yeah.
Afternoon.
Okie dokie. Yes, don't worry,
I
Kevin.
promised to.
We're here.
We had Commissioner Rogers online.
Okay, we are just teasing one another, kidding them about our lunch and dietary practices. So we have a very full afternoon on this April 4th, 2024. So we're just gonna keep going through our topics. So our next topic is a closure of a topic that we've had in prior roundtables, most recently at our March 7th roundtable, where we went over the purpose and roles of the Washington County Coordinating Committee. It's having a board advisement administrative role with regard to the Major Streets Transportation Investment Program, excuse me, improvement program, as well as the transportation development tax. Outside of that, everything else is discretionary. So excuse me, with that, we also had the history of WCCC shared with all of us and the board role. And then out of that came some really good questions from Commissioner Fye. Excuse me. My lunch hasn't settled yet. And we recently have received a memo to the board through our county administrator and ACA for the land use and transportation portfolio. So I would just appreciate it if we could quickly run through the Q&A in that. And I'm seeing heads nod. Okay, so the first one was a question about how the Board of Commissioners had previously approved the bylaws. And this, I appreciated the answer, but it led to a subsequent question. If WCCC is in fact has an advisory role to the Board of Commissioners, and we provide staffing for that role, why is this board and commission one where we are investing county taxpayer dollars, yet the committee by itself can choose to change its bylaws and ask for investment for things that we don't get to have a controlling role in? So that's where I wanted to ask Ms. Angie about the answer to that question.
Can you also tell me where?
In the packet?
Or
It's not in.
it's an email that Stephen Roberts sent.
I am forwarding it to BCC Communications
Okay.
right now. And then,
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
and then,
Okay, thank you.
I think I'm looking at it here, but
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
I'm looking at it online.
Me too.
Okay.
does everyone have the document? Okay.
Kudos to Commissioner Fye. She's far better at working electronically the majority of the time compared to me, so. Thank you for helping us find it electronically.
So historically, the board has not approved the bylaws. If the board would like to make that change, that is something that can be done moving forward. I think part of the reasons historic, looking back, and this is, I'm gonna say my opinion, understanding the history is it's been different than other boards or commissions where it's solicitation of members from the community and then those members are appointed the board. This is a very positional type committee where it is by the positions individual hold, the mayors of cities. So that's the difference in the committee. And so we're just working through historical legacy.
It's not limited to mayors. It
Oh,
could be
correct.
mayors or city
Yep.
councilors, or for alternatives, their city
Yes,
administrator.
thank you for adding that clarification. So it's not, it's really under the board's purview if you would like to move forward with adoption of bylaws. I think that aligns with the question that Commissioner Fye had asked as well. Why isn't this posted or on the county's board and commission website? Well, because it's the coordinating committee, it's not under our formal board and commission structure. So that could be a change as well.
But in some ways it is, because we organizationally make sure that it meets Oregon public meeting laws. Calendaring, packet availability, all those things. So, I think it's a wonderful thing that there is a Washington County Coordinating Committee that assembles in the spirit of collaboration, has the freedom to raise topics that are of common interest. But it does have a very specific role in advising the board, and it occasionally loses sight of that. And there are other topics that I reminded you all of at that March roundtable, where the body is using our investment of staff resources at their disposal as a matter of convenience outside of what we have the budget opportunity to do. It relates to things like UGB expansions that are with policy changes at the region are outside of our role. With regard to other impact topics outside of our role. And they do have other convening mechanisms. So that's, I'm given our limited resources, I am very protective of our investment decision-making. I'm 100% in support of the collaborative spirit and don't want to see that diminished. So that's where I'm coming from. Just in that, which is relates to, thank you, Ms. Angie, to two of those questions. Just making sure that that body knows that they can't just change the bylaws and expect us organizationally. We're not bound to support that. Those bylaws, those topical things and whatnot. And for a specific solution of how to do that, I'm not exactly sure.
Would you remind me who handles the agenda? Isn't it LUT?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so we can also, given the fact that we control the agenda, that's a good place to monitor that.
I guess, I like the fact that we staff that primarily because it gives me some sense of managing direction. Notice I didn't say control.
Yes. I like that
Um,
phrase. Thank you.
So I like the fact that we do that. I think it also shows kind of collaboration and participation because we only have one person from the county that sets in on that. That's Nafisa. So we sat around the table with a variety of organizations, Port and TriMet and mayors and I can't remember how many of them were on there when I was on there. So I kind of like that fact that we are a participant in that. And other than the budget item that you've identified, I just think it's not broke. Why are we trying to fix it?
They're asking by virtue of using by convenience the amount of time and energy,
Who's they?
the group of WCCC asking directly of our staff
Mhm.
for more. As a matter of convenience,
Okay.
I don't think they're as mindful as we are. So it's not that things are broken, it's that things have trended.
Just like everything else we're doing, it gets bigger.
So that's all. That's where I'm coming from,
Okay.
which is why I shared that information there. So, I don't know, bylaws, that's not the right place to be dealing with it,
I
perhaps.
agree.
So, yeah. But it does go to, it should be listed under boards and commissions, right? The actual appointment, right? Every time there's a new election of a mayor and city council, those jurisdictions have to be reminded, hey, you need to make sure you've got somebody appointed to this, right? Like it or not, they actually expect
Mhm.
us as an organization to remind them. So, but we do carry, they've been meeting virtually. We're carrying the cost for that. So, different things like that. So I think just having it listed will raise the consciousness
Having it listed.
under boards and commissions.
And so is that going to change our responsibility of confirming their appointments?
No.
Okay.
It,
I thought it was actually on there because like Nafisa is our appointment to that group. So I thought it was under our list.
and our staff's done a really good job. It's part of the Washington County portal and the iAgenda, and our staff does a great job with the packets and making sure they're available and updating them. So, yeah, there have been a lot of terrific improvements. So,
So what action is being proposed at this point then?
just listing it on the Washington County website under boards and commissions.
Okay.
Pretty simple, I think.
No downside.
Well, no, kind of one of those oversight things, but okay.
Well, and so, question 2 is about what entity owns the formation of WCCC and WCCC TAC. For the purposes of being advisement to us, this is where I think the answer is slightly different. For the purposes of being advisement to us for MISTIP and the TDT, as articulated in the March roundtable, we do have some role and capacity that we carry. It's no big deal. And our staff does a really good job of hosting the TAC as well, and the TAC going through its work. So, and one reason why I'm mindful of the improvements is when I changed careers and stepped back from the high-tech private sector and spent 3 years as a community advocate and volunteer from 04 through 06. I attended those meetings regularly, and they're light years. They excel compared to the ability to get information and transparency. I mean, it's just vastly improved. It's wonderful. then question 3 is part of what we were talking about. And then the last question is on question 4. The auditor sent us a memo, and it is our policy choice for the utilization of the misstep, the way we go through the general fund allocation. But I believe Stephen's answer with Ms. Angie is just talking about how there may be an opportunity for improved codification of the administrative rules. So they'll look into that. So I wanted to bring this back because we noted at our last roundtable that it was a good discussion in the March roundtable to go through that history. Commissioner Fye asked some questions, and so we said we would bring this topic back to finally close it out. And so I just wanted to make sure we could close it out. I'm good.
Okay.
Me too.
Thank you, Stephen, for answering these questions and the time and effort you put in. I appreciate it very.
Anything from you, Commissioner Rogers?
Of course. I think I'm on camera all of a sudden. I haven't been this morning. Interesting. There are other issues, and we don't need to deal with them today unless we're so inclined. But things that have occurred over the year, one, it has to do with land use. Historically, what was found was that was just too complicated in terms of the cities have their set of issues and the county had their set of issues. And so at some point in time, that needs to be addressed.
So for me, you're being a little oblique. I don't know what kind of issue you're talking about.
882?
Very specific. Yeah. Does that, you call it committee, I don't call it a committee because I don't think it is, but that group, are they to deal with land use issues, their land use issues and our land use issues? And I think it's a much narrow, just personally, much narrower charge for that group. I think that their charge is on roads, not on land use issues. Another thing that's come up historically.
We're actually, wait, we're in agreement for the purposes of WCCC based upon what we went over in the March roundtable they have a formal role with regard to Major Streets Transportation Improvement Program, because I'm looking right at the slides, and the TDT.
That's exactly what Stephen's memo did, but I'm saying that we need to be clear in regard to communication because that's still a point that's not resolved. It may be in our minds, but I don't think it's in other minds. So that's my issue. The second one is that, and this has come mainly from District 2, I can tell you over the years, that with the size of the county and having just one representative in the group, it's a little disproportionate. There are cities, that I can name and probably all of us can name that are very small that have one vote, and the county has one vote. I don't think it changes the dynamics of anything, but I think that at some point we ought to ask the group to re-examine that. It's been a question of many, many, many years. So I just throw that out if they're talking about it.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Commissioner Rogers, you said from District 2 there was concern?
Used to be all the time, Pam. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess I'm confused because I haven't heard WCCC concerns from District 2. So if we don't have to do it right now, but I want to make sure that I'm clearly understanding if there's something I've missed.
What the issue was, and it came also from District 1 a bit, didn't so much from District 4 and 3 because of the number of cities, but the issue always had been you have all of the population of 200,000 plus and you get one representative. Is that fair? we can choose to not deal with that or deal with it. The cities, I don't think care because they've got plenty of people in terms of numbers, but if you're not hearing it today, that's different from the past and okay. We
So
can-
you're talking about urban unincorporated areas?
Yes, pardon me.
So, but this is where I think there's a point of confusion, and I think I'm not trying to speak for all of us, rather, I'm offering my opinion for where I believe the four of us in the room are. We understand the role of WCCC with regard to MISTIP and TDT, and they are advisory to the Board of Commissioners, which is the decision-making authority for those things. So which means the UUA decision-making continues to rest with the board. So I'm failing to understand your description for the issue, topic, or circumstance. Let me just call it that.
You're referring, when you do UAAs or any other agreements, you're talking about land use, talking about distribution of funds and funding. People have said, isn't there, and I used to get calls all the time, isn't there some methodology in which there's
So
more
how MISTIP
representation?
gets spent?
Money spent, yeah.
Commissioner Treese, what did you say?
Are you referring then to how MISTIP dollars get spent without representation? Is that what you're talking about?
You could say without representation, the dollars are
But
spent.
that's-
But that's our role.
But that's what we,
That is what,
Well,
okay, thank you. I guess I just, Roy, I appreciate your perspective. I just didn't understand what it was. So.
yeah. Anyway, that's those, and today, if you look at how those things are fashioned, they're fashioned by predominantly cities, and I come from there, so I guess I don't have a big bone, but it seems there ought to be an examination of that urban unincorporated area. So that's another issue. Whether we deal with it or not, that's separately. And you know that I'm completely out of lockstep with the board in regard to this committee. We always thought it was more like a JPAC model, where Metro has JPAC and there's an equal kind of a balance between the county and the cities. Was always that way for years and years and years. Now, the only reason that the county is even involved in this fashion is because the cities got behind misstep. If they not, it would have failed. And had Tom Bryan, when he was in the legislature, not made 5 and 50 that part of our base, those funds wouldn't be general fund money. They would not be in the county money. They would be separate. So we've got to reconcile, and we don't have to do it now. And I get it that I'm in the minority, but it's a festering issue with mayors, and it will be for a long time. So I want to make those points, and if we're still in the same position that this is some committee and you want to list it, this issue will live beyond all of us, that's for sure. And I appreciate being heard.
so from my notes that I made to document our conversation at the roundtable, you shared these particular thoughts in our last meeting. I don't agree with the last circumstance that you raised. I know from sitting around in the audience from '04 through '06, then sitting at the table as a Metro counselor for 12 years, that WCCC has not functioned like a JPACT, where it is the decision-making body and the Board of Commissioners just affirms. Because I heard you as chair talking about how the board was the decision-making authority for misstep. And so I just don't think that's holding water sufficiently. And we've been over this in our 5+ years as we've talked about misstep allocations as well. So I just, there is no there to come back to.
Commissioner Rogers, I guess I would see WCCC functioning more like impact functions in relationship to Metro Council.
Well, reasonable people can have reasonable
Thoughts.
That's right. I wish we could fast forward backwards because I would have had a whole different conversation with Tom Bryan when he was in the legislature. It would have been very different than today. And so it is what it is. So I accept the majority opinion.
All righty. Okay. Well, I think we can close this topic and move on to more important things.
I didn't get it.
Yep. I see head nodding here from the board as well. Okay.
Chair, can I just be clear on the next steps?
Yeah.
And staff direction on
Yeah.
this item. So the staff direction is to list this on the board and commission's website.
Yep.
And we will be clear with the description
Yep.
of how, just the differentiation, because we don't do a call for applications for this
That's
committee. So
absolutely
we will make sure that's clear, so there's not community confusion.
Yep.
Roster set and it's
Correct.
Thank you very much. It's not the only committee that has set positions. We have other Public Safety Coordinating Council, for example. So I think we're trying to make sure that as we convene these different committees, it follows Oregon public meeting laws. We add tremendous value in it doing so and do that job very well. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to our next topic. And it's our standard sort of thing for going over our current state of affairs, our current plans. We received last night or late yesterday, updated rolling agendas. Also in the packet is the roundtable plan. I'm going to look at the roundtable plan first. Okay. We secured dates at our last meeting. Ms. Angie and I had a conversation just late Tuesday, and I was incorrect. I had in my brain in that conversation, I was thinking like June 4th, when in fact our June roundtable is Monday the 10th. Does that Monday date still work for you?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Great. So I updated the roundtable plan with the dates that we agreed upon in our March roundtable. And you'll see I just highlighted in yellow those things where we've got surveys out, where we have a role. Beyond that, everything else is the same. So that's all I wanted to highlight there. I myself haven't had the opportunity to walk through this latest and greatest rolling agenda. Can we ask for a little bit of help there? Can you walk us through it, Ms. Angie?
I can. Bear with me one second. I'm
yeah.
having my own computer difficulties right
Yeah.
now, so I need to get back on the webpage.
Oh, look, we're killing time. April 16th, deflection, program planning update. That's going to be great.
This conversation or walking through the rolling agendas actually connects to your BCC work plan conversation later. So just once again, your work plan is the higher level look at the full year. when we look at your rolling agendas, that also includes routine items, consent calendar, proclamation. But the work plan includes those heavier work items where the board members will more than likely have to put more time and attention and detail. So I just wanted to connect the two conversations that we're going to be having today. As the chair mentioned, what you will see is deflection updates throughout the rolling agendas as well as the BCC work plan. This is with the goal of having the board approve the grant application in August. So we're still waiting from the state for more details. So this is a bit, I would say, I will call it making the plan for the plan as we continue to learn more about the requirements for deflection. Other items you'll see at the end of the month coming to the board with the Wingspan Event Center and Conference Center booking policy. This is one of the key steps after the consultant report that we completed last year.
I do have a change for April 23rd, and I'll assume I dropped the ball here. The county council exec session will not be ready the end of this month. So my bad, I'll get that taken care of out into the future. I just don't know the date off the top of my head now. So.
One of the changes that we're working towards too on your board meetings is having only 2 proclamations unless it's approved to help manage the time of the meetings. In addition, what we're also discussing is greater parameters when there's a presentation on the time of presentation, especially for the daytime board meetings when we have just really a small window for your board to meet.
And I really do appreciate sticking with April, how under other meetings, it's very helpful for me to see that I think it's next Friday. What day is the 12th next week?
It's Friday.
Friday, we have that joint meeting with the Fair Board. Then the following week, we have that budget committees orientation. And then our initial budget committees meeting where Ms. Angie on the 29th will be presenting the proposed budget overview. So, just thank you, staff. Those are some of the little details that help us in our jobs. Really appreciate it. And board members, are there any things in April that you want to highlight or mention? Or that help you or anything? Or you have any questions about?
Yeah, just a minor heads up. There's no school on Tuesday, April 9th. I'm hoping to bring my middle child with me to work, but he won't be just deaf. He's looking forward to coming to work to see. He promised. So for 2 hours, he'll stay with us in the back to watch us.
And middle child has a name?
Zachy.
Number 2,
Number 2.
easier to remember, is your number 1.
He asked if
That
he
like
could
thing 1 and thing 2?
think to yes. Just know a lot. Yeah, I said maybe you could sit next to Chair Harrington.
No.
So if we want to move to May, if there were no other questions, okay. So
May.
Mm.
I'm having trouble imagining the month of May. Just, whew, time's going by so fast.
So as the board has previously requested, we try to keep the meetings as light as possible because we know there's a lot of outside the meeting work on budget that you all do. And so that's the big yellow headline on top of the meeting. Also, as you're reviewing the rolling agenda, just a reminder, if it's in italics, that means we're not quite sure if it's going to land on that date.
But
So-
the facilities condition index is coming.
It's coming, but it's in italics.
Yes,
So if
it's
it's not ready, it's gonna move out.
And Marnie, can you save me? There she is. I know it doesn't happen very frequently that the Dave's plans come to us. Oh, but maybe Commissioner Willie can save me. I flunked the OPI-M test. Oh, I'm sorry. Jerry, do you remember?
No, I'm waiting for
Oh.
Marnie to come up and save me.
Come up with She has several lifelines after her.
No. Thank you, Chair Harrington. The OPIM is the new program expansion of Oregon Project Independence that will be covered with Medicaid. It'll be a pretty large expansion of that program.
Thank you.
Marnie, just hang out up here. If there's more questions.
Well, look at that. The guaranteed maximum price with the cat
Yeah.
as well. That's a huge milestone. Exciting stuff. Really cool. And we have a CWS budget day in May. Oh boy, the urban growth report. Is that the draft report or the full report?
That'll just be a status update.
Status update. Yeah, I've been watching the MPAC packets. Oh, yeah, the foreclosure stuff. I'm sorry, Ms. Angie, I didn't mean to take the mic away.
You're
from
you're actually really doing a good job. So,
you. Oh, okay.
I would draw your attention to May 28th. That's the WCCLS, library governance and funding project status. We're not quite sure they were on and then they went away. So this is the governance, project that's underway and which also connects with
West
levy.
Logan Garden Home, right?
There's
The
more.
overall governance.
Oh, the overall, the whole
Yeah.
piece. Okay, thank you.
July 2023, I think July 11th work session. Also, our housing team is really doing a terrific job of preparing information and working with our peer tri-counties staff to present a clear picture across the 3 counties for the SHS funding. And with help from Ms. Angie, they will be presenting at the Metro Regional Housing Stakeholder Advisory Table meeting on the 17th. The slides may be coming late in the game. So I anticipate that you'll be getting that information by email, and then we'll bring that topic into the next Tuesday, which would take us to the 23rd. So if we could pencil in just a board check-in on that, because we're slated to have the last Metro RH SAT meeting on Wednesday, May 10th. So at a minimum, I will have hopefully some information to checkpoint with you on the 7th. Okay.
I want to make note, the May 28th meeting, I will not be at. I will be in Belgium for ICMA. I'm working through the logistics in case we have to have a budget meeting that evening, and how I can do that virtually.
Oh, yeah. Turn the page, Catherine. Look at all those green budget meetings. Oh, yeah, May 29th, 6 to 8 p.m. If needed.
Yep.
Well, we'll at least hopefully know by the 22nd.
Mhm.
So that's good. Yeah. Okay. Cool, boys. Everybody else ready for the month of June?
I'd like to make a change just on the schedule for me for the Singapore and Laos trip. I'm leaving on June 14th.
So Jack, you gonna have clean water service budget ready to drop on the 19th here? Coming right at you here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Guess the leader is going to be leading that agenda item.
19th of May,
19th of April.
April.
The budget drops and then we have our CWS budget meeting.
We're talking about June.
I know, but I just looked at that this week and I'm going, or next week, I'm going, Jack, just want to make sure. Got your game together.
Really, the question is, are we ready to
Yeah.
resume it? So when
But he
we're-
got in ahead of Tanya and her budget, so that'll give us some time to at least read that.
Yes, so far we're on track.
Yeah.
One other piece about my absence in June is that the June 18th meeting is the budget adoption, and I'm going to do my best to call in that day so that I can have a vote on the adoption piece. But I think it's like 1 or 2 in the morning. So
Yeah, so we've got 2 entries for your trip. Are you going to really be back on the 29th or is that,
I think so.
okay?
I think I'm back on yes,
Okay.
the 27th. Back, but my soul won't be in me. My body will be here on the 27th, but it'll take 2 days
We can ask you anything we want to.
for my soul to follow. My soul
And
travels.
her answer will be, I'll get back to you on that.
It'll be kind of like, where am I again? Maida, would you put her trip just on the calendar on mine so I can know when she's going to be gone? Thank you. I got lots of
That's
stuff
like,
up
Do
there.
not
I'll get
give
that.
him my hotel
No,
information.
no. Call you about 3 o'clock.
now. So we're still on track for the delivery of the State of the County address here. Jory, I think, in the auditorium, question mark? Yep. Yep. We have Juneteenth is during the week this week. The week of, I believe it's June 20th. So,
Same as the target date for the state of the county.
do I have that date wrong?
No, your state of the county is Thursday, the 20th. Juneteenth is Wednesday, the 19th, and your
Ah.
budget adoption is the 18th. So it's budget adoption, Juneteenth, state of the county.
Thank you for keeping it all straight. Really appreciate it.
Speaking of June,
And
go ahead, Tanya.
in June, I don't think I registered the date correctly when you were asking me about date conflicts.
Yeah.
On June 6th, I will be traveling for that roundtable, so that's when
It's not June 6th, it's June 10th.
the
The roundtable we decided last month was Monday, the 10th.
It's updated, correct on the rolling agenda now.
June.
yes, okay, that's, yep.
And it's not limited to 2 to 4.
That's all day.
We're all on the same information.
And so on that same information for June 4th, and this was a follow-up from our conversation we had, Sharon, for the board's awareness, that board meeting, I will be taking virtually. And if there's a portion I can't take, one of the ACAs, I'll be sitting in.
That'd be great. We've got an excellent ACA team. So we know we're in good hands.
So.
I have a
Samantha-
question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Fye.
In terms of proclamation in June, it looks like Pride Month. When does that happen, the proclamation? I don't see that.
So far, Commissioner Fye, that has not been scheduled yet.
So it will be coming. What that means is someone hasn't entered it into the software for it to be uploaded. So we'll make note of that.
And if you will notice, board, on the budget meeting on the 18th, we are keeping that open to solely focus just on the budget. So you won't have to worry about anything else.
And I know this is coming. We gave direction at the January meeting for the amending the year 3 work plan and direction on the formation of, this is the SHS work plan. Sorry, I didn't use enough words. For the amendment to the year 3 work plan and direction for the year 4 formation of the year 4 work plan. Can somebody help me? I'm assuming since things run on, the revenue runs on a fiscal year basis, that somewhere in the business meetings that we approve that, but I haven't looked at that.
We'll make note of it and
Yeah.
double check.
Yeah.
That it's.
That'll be great.
And I see Marnie's nodding, so she's taking note of that.
Yeah. I'm not concerned about it per se. I just want to make sure I haven't lost sight of it as a necessary ingredient. So, I also appreciate how on June 11th, our records assessment and taxation and elections team is coming June 11th to give us a brief overview on ranked choice voting, because the November election, if I'm remembering it correctly from when they were here with us for the May election, that'll be the November election will be the first time that ranked choice voting is implemented by voters in Washington County by virtue of the city of Portland election for that subset of constituents. So that'll be really interesting to learn about. Thank you. Anything else? I also want to reinforce that hopefully we all are busy planning our own vacation time for the summer months and into the latter part of the year, so that we know in advance if we're going to have any quorum challenges. So that would be great.
And I would also add that I think we need to work with Jack and Diane to make sure that other CWS trips are on here as well.
That's a whole separate, we talked about that last roundtable. We have a whole separate email on.
I just want to make sure they're represented, that we're going to, those of us that are going to be gone.
Oh, now I understand.
Yeah, for quorum purposes.
Okay. Thank you. My misunderstanding. I'm with you. Okay, that'll be great.
So Chair, can I just give you the board, a couple fast facts that I received from Joe Nelson, Director of A&T today. They have completed election ballot styles, and they had anticipated around 700 different ballot styles that they needed to prove. They are actually at 1,096. So I just want to give kudos to the elections team on just the detail work. Also on Friday, March 29th, the office received the all-time record-breaking day of passports with a quantity of 132 passports being issued. And so I just think that's a really interesting kind of just, I don't know what that means about people getting passports. But just for the total year of 2023, the county passport agents processed 7,300 applications for the year. So I just think that speaks to the volume of work that comes through our A&T department that just we don't always see. So thank you for giving me a few minutes to bring that to light.
Records, assessment and taxation and elections. It's a lot. That's a hopping busy office over
I
there.
was actually here that day and the line was clear down the hall, and I went into the little restaurant here Sips and Sammys or whatever. And said, what is up with that? And they said, it's all passports. And I'm thinking, is there a discount on passports? We got them on sale. Get 2 for 1.
Oh,
Well, and what's,
It's spring break. That's what it is.
That's spring break.
Everybody brings their family in spring break to get their passport.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh,
oh,
When was the date though? When was the date?
Friday, March 29th.
Yeah.
That does make sense. It was after spring break.
no,
Oh, during spring break, they
break,
bring
yeah.
them in.
Yes.
I
they
get, I
come
think
in.
you meant for travel during spring break.
No.
Well, that didn't make sense. So, yeah. Okay, got it.
and then just to the quality of the work, for passports, they get audited, on, like an air audit. And the last 2 audits, they have received 100% from the US Department of State. So just kudos to that team.
we make any money on that?
No, it's break even, with the $35 fee, passport fee. And it's a non-statutory,
But it's not an
Service.
unfunded
Right.
burden. It's just, we don't, okay.
All righty, so we're going to switch to a big topic for an hour from County Counsel to give us a County Counsel office workload update. Take it away, Mr. Anderson. Bye, Jack.
Thank you, Chair. I have our leadership team out here, so if you have any questions, they can follow on this. The chair and I have been talking, we meet monthly and talking about kind of all the changes that have happened in our office over the last year or so. That has caused some musical chairs to happen on assignments, et cetera. And then there's also a recognition that our workload changes frequently. And so I wanted to come and share that with you all today. So this is our department mission. You should have all gotten a copy of this yesterday. Our office provides legal services to assist county government in achieving its goals in resolving legal and contractual issues, drafting county legislation, and representing Washington County in civil litigation and administrative county code enforcement proceedings. County Counsel Office accomplishes this by delivering quality legal services and creative solutions at a reasonable cost while adhering to the highest ethical standards. Your board saw that in the whole visioning process that you've gone through and provided comments on that. So our priorities are to provide effective services to county departments, resolve litigation as effectively as possible, and assist in the progression of One Washington County. One of the ways we do that is because we work with all the various departments, we see, and I've shared with some of you this, a lot of departments are touching the same person. And so how can the county wrap its arms as a whole organization on those individuals, give them the best services they need? Now, we don't do that in and of ourselves. We just see it because we're working with various departments, and then we talk to our departments about that. I don't know if that helps at all. I see a curious face on that.
I didn't quite understand it, but let's keep going.
Okay. So here's an outline of what I'm going to talk about today. What do we do? Who does what? Our workload review and metrics, and a time for questions from your board. So with Tom Carr's assistance, you may recall last summer that your board codified what our department does, and that is found in Washington County Code, Chapter 2.05010. And what Tom did was he took a variety of resolution orders that have been out that boards have approved over the years and put it in one space because it was difficult to figure out what our responsibilities were. So that's why you see that. I'm not going to read them all, but I will just give you big concepts of what they are. We provide legal advice to the board. We provide legal advice to county administrative office. We help draft the county's laws or resolutions and orders. We provide the enforcement assistance if any code enforcement or other state enforcement that we're involved with. We assist in that if it goes to a court proceeding. We help with contracts, approving them as to form for every single contract, we assist in drafting contracts. We attend board meetings and other advisory committee meetings on request. A big bucket, which I'm going to talk about pretty extensively today, is we defend county cases when county employees or the county gets sued. We also initiate affirmative litigation at your board's request when your board thinks that want to get involved in a particular case or take a case up. We provide general counsel and advise departments and other duties as assigned by the board. So there's some duties that aren't in here that that we do a lot of work on as well, and a lot of it's just our general counsel work with our departments. So we help departments assess and mitigate risk. One thing we do that is a newer function of our office is we review public records, emails when we get a public records request that comes in. There needs to be a response. So what that means is we have 2 people in the entire county that can review all emails on the county system that are archived. And a strategic decision was made that it should be someone in our office that reviews those emails because they have basically the keys to the kingdom. And so we have 2 paralegals in our office that do that. One is a primary paralegal that reviews emails when we get records requests for emails. That takes up 40% of his time. It's a substantial workload, and it's not a traditional responsibility of a county council office, but we provide that service because there's a big confidentiality concern.
Could you speak to what the job title or job role is that does that? Is it a lawyer? Is it a paralegal? Is it?
It's a paralegal.
Thank you.
Yes. We assist in the redaction of public records based on exemptions under public record law. We respond to, so not surprisingly, our departments get a fair amount of subpoenas or outside cases that the county isn't a part of. And we assist our departments when their employees get these subpoenas. And it's not only just subpoenas for people to come testify at a deposition or a court hearing, et cetera, but it's also for records. Lots of subpoenas for records as well. We assist departments by providing training periodically on a variety of different subjects. We assist with contract disputes that arise from time to time. When departments ask, we'll assist them in policy development. We don't jump in unless we're asked to do so. A big role is we have a mostly full-time attorney that assists HR with personnel issues as they come up. And this is a bit of a repeat, but it tells you how many we do. We review approximately 2,000 contracts a year as well, because that's kind of what the county sees on a yearly basis. So I wanted to talk about litigation and administrative hearings. I wanted to kind of give you an idea of kind of the flavor of what happens, what the amount of cases that we've got going on at any given moment of time, just to give you an idea of how much, frankly, time we spend in this area. So we get approximately 50 lawsuits a year regarding negligence. Federal claims, employment claims are kind of our bread and butter of litigation. And we've got, and in addition, cases come and go, but at any given time, we've got approximately 50 cases that are active at any given time. We've talked previously about tort claims. Tort claims is a concept under Oregon law that you have to inform the government when you're with your intent that you may sue the government. You've got to timelines are vary a little bit, but most situations it's got to be within 6 months of the event that you are that you think you have a claim related to. And that's just not a notice coming into the office. Once we get that notice, often there is a request to retain records. We call that a litigation hold. And then primarily our risk department in HR, but we're working in coordination with them on tort claims and trying to resolve issues early, because sometimes if someone has a meritorious claim, we will resolve that early on before they have to file a lawsuit. We have, for our land use and transportation department, we work when they're doing a road project often, and it could be other projects, it could be facilities, but it's almost always a road project. And there's a need to take a private party's a part of their property to do that project. That if our team, our LUT team can't resolve the issue with the property owner, we have to file condemnation cases, and those are very sporadic. But I will report to you that we had 7 just this morning that we're working on because there's a new big road project happening. So it usually is associated with a big project that's coming down the road. That's happening, and so that's what.
And this is an area that Tom Carr sensitized us to, that our county is unique in its use of condemnation for it, at least in his view, with regard to road projects. So there's something about that. So, and it'll come in waves too, dependent upon, just like, with misstep and minor betterment, and both through the URMD, ROMAC, and then the LUT misstep projects.
Yeah, let me give you just but one example that I know Commissioner Willie will appreciate, because he mentioned this Tuesday. There's going to be a roundabout at Farmington and River Road, and you may remember there was a restaurant on the corner, and the county ended up taking that property. Now, I don't think we condemned that property. I think that was mutual agreement, but that's an example of when a condemnation can come up, or just these big projects where they're widening a road for a long stretch. Remember, each individual property has a different right, and so that's why we end up with a bunch all at once, because we're just going down the road for half mile or something like that, and so sometimes there's a need to condemn. Although, as I said, I know our land use and transportation team does all they can to resolve the matter before having to come to our office, basically. So bankruptcy too. We get roughly 10 bankruptcy filings a year, and those can vary dramatically too. A lot of it's dependent upon what's going on in the economy in Oregon, and those primarily relate to property taxes. And when it comes to property taxes, we have a very good position in a bankruptcy. We're essentially a secured creditor, and get paid first out of the proceeds on a case. It gets a lot more complicated if it's not a tax related case, but we do get involved in bankruptcy cases as well, and a lot of national cases too. one thing that's often surprising to folks is a lot of national companies that you may know file for bankruptcy, and and they have businesses within our community. Rite Aid is the latest example that I know off the top of my head, but they file bankruptcy, and then they've got a lot of properties within our jurisdiction, and then the tax issues come up, and so we get involved in bankruptcies, but like I said, we're usually in a very strong position, so it's not a time-consuming event. Property tax appeals. Any individual who owns property has the right to appeal their property tax, their assessed value, and so Jason actually has condemnation, bankruptcy, and property tax appeals all in a row here, and it's that time of year right now where
Is that all the nerdy topics?
just he's a wizard with the numbers. And so that we get maybe 10, 15 appeals a year where our office has to get involved. Often that's because there is an attorney on the other side. They're almost always commercial or industrial complex types of cases. And those consume a fair amount of time. I did them for many years. And they will ramp up now, and by the fall, we're talking trials type of situation. Civil commitments. I don't know how familiar you are with this. Our county is somewhat unique. In most counties, the district attorney's office addresses civil commitments. And they are a quick action where a person is found, is put on a hold because they're a danger to themselves or others, or can't make basic needs because of a mental illness. And they don't voluntarily agree to go to the hospital or whatever space that is appropriate for them. And so, so we end up assisting our behavioral health team, our civil commitment team, on the hearing that has to go before a judge because it is a civil right you're taking away, and they are quick activities, and because the individual has to have their maximum stay without a hearing is in a hospital is 5 days. And on day 3 of that 5 days is when we're told yes or no, we're going to go. And so it's a very quick activity that you can't plan for. We used to do.
Why do we do?
It's required by state law.
I know. If we didn't do it, who would do it? Is it because of our UUAs? Why is it unique to us?
Well, the only thing that's unique to Washington County in this respect is in most counties, the district attorney does these hearings, whereas in Washington County, Deschutes County, Lynn County, and a couple other counties, the county counsel office has done these hearings.
Is that a policy choice, or we don't know?
I have no idea, but we've been doing it for 20 plus years. I know, probably much longer.
Good history to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the other thing in terms of service hours that we'll get to later, it will be good for us to have the opportunity to learn for these different types of litigation or other administrative processing. What is the service hours?
Oh, okay.
For that volume.
Yeah.
I will tell you the civil commitment explanation that you gave was the best I've heard in like 2023, and I know that was the best lawyerly explanation. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. I've been involved with this activity for a long time.
Hot topic last year.
Yeah. Civil forfeitures. So you may recall this. This was an activity where an individual that was involved primarily in drug activities, a government agency could, if a property or money was involved with that particular illegal drug trade, there was the ability of a police agency to attempt to forfeit that property this was a hot topic 20 years ago, and then it popped up again in the last 10 years ago. We used to help win the West Side Interagency Narcotics team with these cases. And so that there would have to, the current state of the law was a person had to be convicted of that crime, and then those proceeds, if a court found that they were part of they were proceeds or used in the drug trade, that they could be forfeited. We have a newer Court of Appeals case that has really challenged that, and so we have stopped doing that, but our office has done that in the past. So there's no current cases, but it is an activity our office has done previously.
So I think for a future report, something that will be beneficial, we are aware of our different departments, our different administrative portfolios, our different boards and commissions, but we do not have a easy summary of the different agencies that are convened by the county. We are WIN. It's a collaboration with other jurisdictions. So we're the legal point for that quote unquote agency.
Yes.
Unlike WACA, we're part of WACA. We provide the land and facility for WACA, but we're not legal counsel to WACA. We're just a participant. So there's a slight difference there. And we're going to need that summary as we are a new commission in 2025 and onboard a new commissioner, and that will help with future boards as well.
Yes, it is a complicated web that we have weaved over the years on these various intergovernmental groups, and none of them are exactly the same, and so it is challenging. So we'll work on that piece for you.
Great.
I have a question about the civil
Forfeitures? Yeah.
Is that only, is it property related?
Yes.
It's
It's property or money. So it's not person, it's in rem, which is, stuff.
and is property brick and mortar or cars, things like that?
Cars, property,
Yes,
anything that has an
not-
ownership.
it could be both, or it is both, I should say. And I haven't seen at Washington County where we've attempted to take a real property, house, etc., but it is legally permissible. It would be extremely rare to do so. It's typically vehicles or money.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
Like police impounding?
No, it's not impounding. Impounding is a completely separate activity. Yeah.
Okay.
So the next category, contract claims and disputes. So in the prior slide, we have approximately 2,000 contracts a year.
Yes.
About how many disputes do you get a year?
They're rare. Courtney may be able to answer that because she handles them.
Great,
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
We contract well, I love it.
Yes. And we try to resolve contract disputes before the lawyers have to get involved. So it is somewhat rare. The example I showed you there was the 198th Street Road project, big project. There's an ongoing dispute with the general contractor on that, not surprise, how much money they should get paid for that, or should they get paid more than they contracted for is really the essential argument in that case. We handle public records request appeals. Those have become a little more frequent. As of late, we get a lot more requests, and so sometimes we get disputes. And we've shared with you the civil case is one that is a public records request appeals that is before the Court of Appeals right now. collections, we assist departments on collections. This is not a big ticket issue, but with transient lodging tax, it periodically comes up. We ended up having to sue a hotel vendor a year and a half ago, I want to say, on one of these because they weren't paying transient lodging tax. So that is an example of a litigation situation. And then novel cases demanding declaratory relief. So what that we've had talked a lot about those recently. They're not asking for money or damages. They want something to happen. And I'll talk about those a little later. Well, yeah, right now. So we have, for some reason, and I've shared with you in the past, we have become the testing ground for a lot of novel litigation in Oregon and sometimes nationally. The red,
Come along with having a population greater than 500,000 or 500
yes,
billion.
half,
Yes, 500 million.
no,
No.
500,000.
I had the,
You're right.
I
I
had
had
the
the
first
first
time.
time.
Right.
Billion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to have a population of 500 million.
Oh. You do?
Your district.
larger than the United States.
Moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah, you know, it does come from the territory of being a large jurisdiction in the state of Oregon. So examples I give up here is the Redwell lawsuits that had, you know, very particular unique challenge. Even though a Redwell is operating in other jurisdictions, they decided that we were the big test case. And we've had multiple lawsuits with them that we were successful on. Obviously the flavored nicotine ban ordinance, we've had lots of litigation on that. Elections litigation, which is probably going to increase over time, unfortunately. I gave an example of the North GGB expansion referendum, but there are others. And we speculate it might happen again. Public defender habeas cases. So this was unique. For some reason, our county got sued multiple times, I think three times on holding people at the jail where they didn't have a public defender. Washington County has no role in assigning public defenders. That's a court system, but because the individual was in our jail, they decided that they were going to sue Washington County under habeas case, which means this person is basically being unlawfully detained.
In my non-legal opinion, the potential for those will continue as long as we have a public defender availability problem
Yes.
throughout our state.
Yes, the unique thing here was actually we're not the biggest problem county in the state of Oregon on public defender problems. It's actually down in southern Oregon, but we were named instead. And then fortunately later on in the case, the Department of Justice realized this is more a state issue and they agreed to take on the bulk in those cases. But for a while we were handling most of those cases. We've had the ACLU DRO case, which is kind of a national, it's a big national case on dispatch to mental health crises. You'll see an item in the hot sheet tomorrow on the status of that case. Tax foreclosure takings cases that, you know, that we did have that Supreme Court decision which basically invalidated how we do, how we address the proceeds of tax foreclosure cases in Oregon, because Oregon law did not comply with that. And so we've had cases there.
And that situation will continue to be messy until we have some clear direction from the state. Right?
Right. Yes. So we tried to address it in the last, the most recent legislative session and didn't get to the finish line on that, unfortunately. So that's not going to go away. We have we are an amici in the state hospital aid and assist case, the federal case, which continues. And then we've had this significant natural resource issue. It applies statewide, but Washington County has been the testing ground on that particular issue. So we also do, are involved with administrative hearings. So you think about that is it's not in a court of law necessarily, but it's typically a state administrative process. And so we will, represent the county in those cases. So land use, appeals before LUBA, bully complaints, unfair labor practice hearings, and then we have a local one, the Civil Service Commission, and then we have another local one. I just give as an example of exclusion from county property hearings, which are extremely rare, but they do happen. So I said I was going to do a deep dive into litigation because it's been consuming a lot of our time. So I wanted you to be aware. Litigation is it's not Perry Mason. It's not a situation like you see on TV where they have a hearing the next day and the case is over type of thing. These cases take a long time, and this just tells you what, from beginning to end, responsive pleadings, discovery, motions, settlement options, trials and appeals. And then I asked women in our office to come up with kind of a slide to share kind of the life cycle of a case. So as you can see, there's a tort claim or it's a county initiated claim. So we get the event, the tort claim, and then their pre-suit, as I was explaining earlier. We do work before we actually get a lawsuit on the case. And then sometimes we get a lawsuit, sometimes we don't. And once we get that, then we have to file a response within a month of the complaint, which is an answer or sometimes a motion to dismiss. Then a lot of work starts happening. There's discovery, and that takes a lot. It consumes a lot of our litigators' times, just trying to find out what happened, facts, taking depositions where all the people that are involved with the case come in and are asked questions about it and to address it. And that's about a year length in time often. Okay.
So I want to put a fine point on this. There's two factors of time. There's the litigation plays out over a course of time, but along the way, there's a lot of in-depth work and consumption of time and energy for the different phases and steps of it as well. So
Yes.
In a way, it's a double whammy.
Yes, and that's kind of what the slide is intended to show you.
It's a really excellent slide. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, and then the closer you get to trial, there's often discussion on settlement. Well, there's discussion of settlement all the way through, but then that's when you're really talking about mediation or alternative dispute resolution. And then there's a lot of work that goes into trial prep itself when you're actually going to try the case, and that is a very stressful time. And then there's the actual trial itself, which is actually the shortest part of the entire process. And then a verdict. And then post-trial, there's more work to be done. And there's, you're working on what the judgment's going to say. There's potential enforcement of a verdict. And then there's an appeal. There's often an appeal like we've been seeing lately. And that's a whole new trial. It's just the appellate court. I mean, you have a record in place, but those take time as well. I mean, you've seen this with a variety of our cases that it just goes on. And then, even after we argue a case, then we wait for a decision. So these cases can go, a short one could be just, luckily, if you're lucky, a year, but they can consume 5-10 years of your life, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality we live in.
So another piece of data that I would appreciate us having for our next round of, having data and a structure is how many appeals have been filed against decisions or against the county? And how many, and this is over, a course of time, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years max. And how many have we filed as the county for decisions? And the underlying need that I have here, what's really precipitated this interest is, I think Commissioner Rogers contributing at one point in the last 5 years that the county used to have a general stance of fight everything and don't settle anything. And I'll just say that's an assumption in my mind. Okay, so that's where I'm looking for some real data.
I would say that there are certain areas where we take a harder position than others, for a variety of reasons I won't get into. But like right now, we have 2 cases that we've appealed. One was, actually, I take that back. We only have one that we've appealed right now, and that is the flavored tobacco ban case.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking for trend information.
Okay.
I have a question before you, are you gonna move on? Or you have
Well,
more
this
to
is a
say, I
good
guess?
time to ask questions because I'm going to move to a different topic.
Oh, okay. I question I have about this slide, but first I do want to recognize the immense pressure your office is in terms of external versus internal initiations of these litigation cases. I see that there are more listed of outside initiated versus the county initiating some of these litigations. So
Correct. That's the bulk.
you're on the go. I feel like you're under attack, it feels like, but I got that. The question I have about this slide is, and you brought it up around the tobacco ordinance, which I'm glad the county appealed because I think it was the right thing to do, is around oral arguments and litigation timeline. Where does that fit in?
So are you talking for?
Where is oral argument in this timeline?
So there could be oral arguments on various motions throughout the case. But I think what you're referring to is appellate at the appeals,
Yeah.
and then oral argument in an appeal.
Is that's what's happening right now with the ordinance, right?
Yeah, oral argument was a couple weeks ago in that case. We don't set the timelines for oral arguments. The Court of Appeals does, and we have no control over that. Yes. All right, so who does this work? This may be familiar to you, but because our the amount of people hasn't changed. But there's me, our 2 deputies, Courtney and Jason in the audience. Then we have 7.5 senior or assistant county counsels attorneys. Then we have 3 paralegals, 1 management analyst, 2, that's Patty in our office. And then in the audience, and then we have a senior administrative specialist. So that's who we are. I'm going to pass this around too, if you can. I've got all of our assignments. It's really complicated here. This is the who's responsible for what slide. We've got 3 slides on this because we divide out our work amongst various departments and then subunits within those departments. I'm not really going to go over this slide. I just want you to have an awareness of it. And then you have a handout that shows who does what in our office. Assignments change periodically. When I came on, we had to do some changes so that every department was adequately covered. And then we have a backup attorney for everyone, for all those assignments as well, in case somebody's not in the office. So you'll know who to contact. And then at the bottom, so we assign specifically to particular areas, and then we have Adriana Ortega, who does personnel countywide. for HR, and then we have Don Mansfield and Vamshi Reddy that are our litigators across the board. And then Jason Bush is leading our litigation. And then there's our support staff who we couldn't do this without. Like I said, Patty's here, then our 3 paralegals. We divide up their responsibilities as well, that supporting various attorneys in the office and in various areas. And then Jan, you probably know, she's the first face you see when you come in our office. She runs the front counter and makes sure we're doing what we need to do.
Rashmi
Vamshi?
here yet?
Yes. She's been working with us since November.
Not in our emails.
Oh, she's under Sri Ravamshi, so SREEVAMSHI.
You need to send me an email.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, my name's Bradley.
I understand.
Yeah.
Offline.
Okay.
Thanks.
So this slide is about workload reviews that have been done in the past. Alan Rappley did one in November 2020. The recommendation was to add 2.5 attorneys, 1 paralegal, and 1 investigator. Then Tom did a review in August 2022 where he didn't change that recommendation. The one twist in this that's not on the slide is the investigator position was determined to go into the HR department. And so that was where that position.
So it wasn't lost by the organization. It was just housed differently.
Well, but it was lost by the organization because HR cut that position in one of their budget cuts. So we don't have that position currently.
Okay.
Okay. And during Tom's time, we did lose a vacant or a assigned attorney position that we hadn't filled yet. So, and then I'm gonna work on that further in the fall of 2024. This is just a preview of kind of where we're heading on this.
If there's budget for it, you will.
Right. This is not going to address this current budget year, et cetera. It's just down the road. So there's a variety of workload metrics that there's not a great metric to use for our type of office. And I've listed 7 different types. There's a challenge with each of them. I mean, client surveys, I'm going to do one of those here this fall. But the one I'm going to focus in on is on our hours. So you may or may not know, we track our hours like most attorneys in a law office. We theoretically bill for our time, but it's not really seen as a billing because we're just tracking our time. And if it's a special fund, then it's considered a billable client, but otherwise it comes out of what they cost allocation that is spread out amongst all the departments, but the hours are used in doing that cost allocation. So with the hours trends, we looked at 3 fiscal years and then we trended for this particular year. Our trending is not going to be great, frankly, because we had a lag in time from when Tom left to when Vamshi started of like a couple months. And so when you trend it and you just say, okay, per 6 months, and then we'll just double it second 6 months, that's not going to be accurate because Vamshi is working full time for us for the second 6 months. So the numbers aren't going to be perfect on our trending. But
Is that the person the chair was saying?
yes.
Still works, so they used to be here and then.
So Tom retired and then I took his place and then Eamon basically took over some of my responsibilities. So Eamon was the litigator. So we hired a litigator to fill Eamon's spot.
And
So-
that was mom.
And that's Vamshi.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have 3 different buckets for accounting for our hours. We have the billable clients, which is primarily special fund that has to allocate their funds in, towards that special fund account. And then we have no charge, which is really general fund or internal service fund clients. The example I could give you would be like elections, they're not a special. And then we have do not bill, which is complicated, and I don't want to do a deep dive into it, but it's office hours as well as how we do separately for COVID and ARPA. So this is way too small. I'm not an expert on this type of work, but we did our best to kind of show you all of the buckets for billable clients. And I highlighted some of those some of them we'll talk a little bit more later.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to come back to,
Yeah.
We need charts, trend lines. So we'll get you some Excel help.
Okay, well, so the bottom line, we'll go past all these things. The point I was trying to make is some of these bump up and down, some of them have a trend clearly upward, and then others actually go down. But it's based upon office needs. So what you'll see, so this is the bottom line though. This is total hours for each fiscal year. You'll see there's a trend going up. And like I said, 23, 24 is just projected, but I think that number is going to be substantially higher because, like I said, she wasn't here for a good 2 months during that time. And but she will be here for the second 6 months. So that trend will actually be greater, but we don't know what it's going to be for the second half of the fiscal year.
But it would also be interesting to see the totals per capita, I guess is the right way for me to say that. Totals are interesting, but if you have a different number of lawyers, which is what you were just speaking to.
Yeah, and that's why it's really hard to do apples to apples comparison in here because lawyers leave, lawyers come, there's more lawyers, and so it's super challenging. And I mean, if we were mathematicians in our office, which we are not because we're lawyers, we could help. We could get there, and we can work on that.
Okay.
So this is just, like I said, there's trends. Some are steadily increasing. Some departments had increases in billings during COVID, but then went down. Some departments vary from year to year, just depending on what's going on in their particular office. But we did some trending just to show you some examples. Excuse me. So here's housing. So you'll see a steady increase. And that's not surprising because that department has really ramped up in the last few years, particularly with SHS and affordable housing bond.
The whys are the more interesting. The whys really qualify why it's interesting, is my point, versus just the length of the graph.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, this is the oral part of the presentation. So the district attorney has seen an increase. This is confusing to us, frankly. I don't know why it's gone up substantially. There has been a change in counsel from our office to provide that services, and the person that's doing it now is a former deputy district attorney. So we think they may be leaning on him a little bit more because he has a background.
For handling what?
Just general counsel questions.
Why would the district attorney's office need servicing from general counsel's office, unlike other departments? I mean, the district attorney personnel or employees. So is it for employee complaints, needs, contracts? Why is it different than other departments?
It's not substantially different. I mean, obviously we don't handle if they get sued in their professional in their capacity in prosecution, but it's their general counsel needs. So it is contracts. It's going to be personnel issues, investigations, etc. Anytime there's a touch point with our office. So that's where, I can't tell you specifically why.
I think there's a need to understand what is that service? And why has it increased why is it 5 times different?
I can look into that further.
Yeah.
And that's the service that your office provides to the DA's office and why?
Right.
Right.
So this slide shows you community development hours, and we suspect this has had to do primarily with ARPA funding and just spending that which on community development. So that's what this slide is really showing.
So that's the point I'm trying to make here, that with housing, there was an additional revenue source,
Right.
affordable housing bond, right? With community development, there was the ARPA funding. I do want to note, and I would like it documented, that for fiscal year 2021, and a little tiny bit of 1920 with the CRF funding, we just took that work on, and we didn't support our own selves, invest in our own selves for that. So whereas it increased significantly, even ARPA significantly increased the number of contracts.
Absolutely.
The Affordable Housing Bond Program increased the number of contracts, but we were able to collect administrative fees, right, from that revenue source. And we were allowed to under ARPA, but we didn't under CRF.
Yeah.
So that's where I think we're doing a better job of these different revenue sources of being conscious of that.
That was early disaster stage.
Right.
Holy smokes, have we learned a lot?
And maybe to put a finer point on community development, if you may recall, that's where all the eviction assistance dollars were going. So that's really what was calmed down.
Courtney, I remember those
Private.
days.
Yeah. Right.
And Aaron.
And that's where I've been a little sensitive with regard to the executive orders around homelessness as well, and making sure that there's revenue that comes along with that additional work, not only by the department, but also for the county council.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point of this particular slide is to show you that some of this is just based on what's going on within that department that particular time. So there was a lot of contract negotiations with the state on this particular, with the behavioral health financial assistance agreement contract. And so that's why we think we saw a big spike in fiscal year 22, 23.
So I have a question on this one. I don't have a feel for biennial contracts.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm noticing through the consent agenda that there's, now that we've been here 6 years, or close, yeah, that there are these contract periods. And so that's something that I'm still trying to get my head around.
That's a really good point.
Or run, so to speak, it's run rate, right? There's an underlying run rate. And then there are these episodic maybe, and episodic could be multi-year, but like these special bonds or levies or things like that.
Right. Like here you'll see, so with behavioral health contract, 2021 was a little higher than 21, 22, and 22, 23 went high. It's important to note that with the behavioral health biennial contract, it is negotiated mostly in that odd numbered year at the second half of the year. So it's associated with the long session. So 23, 24, we're not negotiating a contract anymore, but come 25, it's going to be contract negotiations all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's, I was getting at.
Yeah. So unless there's any questions, I'm just gonna kind of go on to.
We're gonna need to wrap up on this at 3.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Time check.
It's supposed to be 2:45.
Yeah.
Well, so I will just quickly just say, there are other ways we could measure our work, and I've shared those in these slides, this slide and the next slide. There's some advantages and disadvantages with each one of those, and I don't think I need to go into that substantially, other than to say there are other ways to measure our workload. And I only the one that is interesting to me is just on slide 33, the comparable offices attorney count. I've asked my colleagues how many attorneys they have in each office, and there you go.
Aren't you lucky we don't operate health clinics and dental clinics and libraries?
Yeah, so yeah, the chair and I have talked about this extensively. It's not an apples to apples comparison. It isn't, and we went through it, and we do some services that they don't. They do a lot of services that we don't, and particularly with Multnomah County, they just do a lot, and they have just a lot more employees too. So there is a basis for the differences in to a certain extent, but and it's not unusual to see this kind of difference. So just long-term outlook, like I said, we're an internal support department, which we're not outward facing necessarily. We're working with the departments. Obviously, when litigation comes in, it's related to a particular department and what they did or didn't do. So our workload often is trending with our departments too. And then litigation's always going to be, our experience has been is always trending up. We're a litigious society. My wife's from Canada. She's always surprised by this. But that's kind of where we're going. It's just a slow tick upwards. And I just wanted to share that, Alan did bring a staffing level recommendation, and it's slowly a little way, but we understand there's,
Asked him to.
yes, you did. But there are budget constraints, and we recognize that as well. And that, we just have a great staff that wants to meet the needs of the department. We want to provide excellent service.
So I'll just say, this is part of the foundation building that the board is trying to continue to help form. And this is where the capital improvement plan and our long-term planning, which we'll be going into a little bit more, that longer-term view helps us understand where we're at now and where we're going. For example, we have had, or we're about to have more of major contracts because of CAT, right?
Right.
We had contracts with regard to purchases, those capital purchases, but the construction and then the operations. Similarly with the jail capacity study and subsequently with what may come next with an expanded jail. Similarly with courthouse.
And we had those with the wingspan that they backed off.
Yes.
I'm just saying that there is that.
Absolutely. Episodic.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? But when you look at that, how the episodes happen, right, we need to really examine, has the load been similar and is it similar and sustainable, or has it changed and is it at a new level? But that's where having the capital improvement plan, facility condition index, and other foundational pieces will help us with the evolution of the foundational piece of the general counsel's office, just like we've done with ERP, which is helping, with under Ms. Angie and CFO Greg Munn, there's the budget transformation as well. So all really good stuff. So this isn't our final destination, but this does take us much further along the path that we're trying to figure out and so forth. So, yeah. Well, I know, it will be helpful. You and I have to talk about what kind of charts to build from. I really appreciated these trend lines, and the articulation of what's contributed to inflection points. For the other data elements, that's where I'll have to digest that a little bit, maybe with my colleagues too, and figure out, okay, what is it we're really trying to understand there? So, yeah.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you
Thank you to the
Definitely.
team.
participated in this too.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
All righty, board members, I think it might be helpful if we take a break now, before the remainder of the subjects. So 15 minutes, see you back here at 3:05. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Why are you laughing at me?
Mom's trying.
Welcome back, commissioners. I'll announce Commissioner Rogers asked to be excused to go get some rest. So it is the three of you, and Chair Harrington should be back momentarily. So
Okay.
back to you, Vice Chair Fai.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's great to be here with this afternoon. Let me bring my TV voice on. Joking aside, our next topic is draft CAO management quarterly report outline. Anya, I turn it to you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Fai. So good afternoon, board. When I had started with the county in August of 2020, the board had drafted multiple goals. That was also at the same time we were, fighting that pesky novel virus, COVID, and multiple other priorities came up. So in my annual evaluation and goals, one of the action items that the board has continued, it's just been on continuing to move forward, is the development of quarterly management reports. And so really what the purpose is to provide the board with a consumable and simple document that apprises across our One Washington County organization at a very high level, a snapshot of what's occurring, really related to the board's initiatives, focus areas as it connects to our strategic plan update, which the board is scheduled to adopt hopefully in April. So today, the purpose of today is just to get a thumbs up on the outline, because prior to working on this document, I wanted to get the board's feedback because it is meant to be beneficial to you on what is the content in this document.
Was that just for Commissioner Willie? You?
Oh, I did look.
I saw
directly
that.
at
I thought,
I know.
all five.
We're chump change.
all eyes on you, Commissioner Willie.
I'm just happen to be in line.
So the format of the document, each report will feature an opening message or an executive summary from me, followed by descriptions of initiatives, challenges from each of the 5 primary areas of government and their associated departments and offices. So these 5 areas of government are the 5 areas that the goals were clustered, or the departments were clustered underneath the strategic plan update. So once again, this update will be connecting back to the strategic plan update. The draft outline then will continue into, and I have to remember to click. Each primary area will include the following: strategic program highlights, snapshots, so only 10 to 15 short items that touch on outcomes, learnings or emerging challenges, and some key next steps. So when I say 10 to 15, if you think about public safety and justice, think of the vast area. 10 to 15 is not very many areas. So this is really a high level management quarterly report. There will be a little deeper dive into a maximum of 3 focus issues or initiatives that are really timely based on that quarter. So for example, it could be, I'm thinking back to some key points in time. So when we learned more about the facility conditions of the critical facilities, that could have been one that could have dove a bit deeper. So it would be timely based on that moment in time. So once again, just snapshots, outcomes, learnings, emerging challenges, upcoming milestones for the next quarter as well. So kind of giving a highlight, like what's coming up. We all don't like surprises if we can minimize them. And it really gives me an opportunity to reinforce how we're operationalizing One Washington County and design the future as really the guiding principles that we work. So not just the data that we see, but how are we moving forward our One Washington County organization culturally? And then it'll be, the report would end with closing comments from myself. So based on your board's feedback, the first quarterly management report will be delivered to the board at the October 15th board meeting as a presentation. So that way it's presented to the board. Also, it's publicly available so that the public has access to this information as well. So, thoughts, feedback, what would you like to see differently?
I'm sure that this, it requires work, it's an add-on, it's those, but the value that I see is at the end of the calendar year or the end of the fiscal year, I'm going to have 4 different reports that I can look back on and say, okay, this is what happened. It rolled into here, it rolled into here, it rolled into here. I think that's going to be helpful for me when I'm in situations where I'm talking to the community at large about what's been going on. I can see that being really helpful. But like I said, I also think it's going to be helpful to the community. And I just want to express my appreciation to you for taking this next step in doing this, because I'm sure it's going to take staff time. It's going to take your time. And what I'm saying is I will commit to utilizing this information and not just reading it and forgetting about it. So I can see a point. In fact, I'm thinking about how to store those for myself in a file so that and they help me when I'm coming out in front of a town hall or something like that. So thank you.
This feels like it's a supplement to the rolling agenda. This is good because we can see topically week to week, basically, what's coming down the pike. Yours is going to be more of obviously a 3-month snapshot looking forward. And I would agree with Pam that we'll be able to.
Can I just make one and back? Because it's going to be a report out on the last quarter
So
with a
what
snapshot,
happened?
like key milestone, what to be expecting.
Well, that's what, when you first started this, I thought, okay, is this forward looking or is this in the rearview mirror? And your paragraph says, what is coming next?
That will be part of what are some upcoming key milestones, but not,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But also kind of here's what happened.
Yep.
Okay.
So Jerry, it's kind of a combination of the both.
Okay. Now, I would agree with Pam. I think this is I like this. I'm looking forward to this. I'm just a little concerned about, you don't have a lot of space in your workday already. So I'll be interested to know how much time this consumes.
So thank you for pointing that out. And this is not a document that I will just be sitting in my office working on alone. And so there will be this is a significant ask for departments. And so that's where the outline, the scale, we've tried to be very thoughtful. The 10 to 15, they're just snapshots. It's not in-depth memos that are being developed. And so what I would be asking for after the first report is give it for feedback from the board. Is this hitting the marks? Would you like anything different? The more of, less of moving forward, because this does take additional staff time and it is an ask for all departments.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to it.
Yeah, and I will just add, although this topic is supposed to be 30-minute topics, you want to, okay,
Catherine's like,
okay.
"You're fine, keep going."
We'll wrap it up. Thank you, Tanya. I'm looking forward to reading the first quarterly report. I did have a question when I was reviewing this material. I know back then we talked about the dashboard. How does that fit into the quarterly report? Is that complementary? How do they complement each other?
Yeah, so if you recall the strategic plan update, there was that graphic that had the strategic plan update connecting to goals and work plans. So right now the departments are undergoing work planning, which we expect those to be completed by the beginning of July. So the work plans, the reporting on those work plans will be updated to a publicly available dashboard. I also plan to use those work plans as input into this document. I didn't want to get into that level of detail because I didn't want to confuse multiple kind of new management systems that we're putting in place. So that information, publicly available dashboard, we'll be using some of that information also as the foundation for this management report.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you for your clear and concise. Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, with that, we'll move on to the next topic. This is the VCC work plan. Tanya, it's still you.
It is me, and I would like to ask Megan McKibben is gonna ask about documents to everyone.
Oh, Chair Harrington is back. Chair, we're starting the last item unless you want to go back to the. Nope. Order, okay.
Catch up.
Mhm.
So I don't have a formal presentation on the work plan at your board meeting last month, or board roundtable, excuse me. You had reviewed more in depth the BCC work plan and provided robust feedback. Ms. McKibben will help navigate through on the screen the work plan. It was sent to you in an Excel file yesterday so that you can do your own sort. Megan is our sorting master, and I would ask that if you do want certain sorts to just be patient, because sometimes it's stressful to do that sort while you're in a group of people. So let me can we get that this
Actually,
way?
Megan, we're gonna need you to come up here. Because you're gonna have to respond to sort filter types.
That makes sense. Okay, so let me just at a high level talk about some of the changes based on feedback that we have made. So to ground you, the 5 major areas of Washington County government, that aligns once again into the 5 areas that are in your draft strategic plan update. Then we have the lead department, division, or office, the support division, department, or office. Megan, can you go back to the heading?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. And then the board initiative. And then what we did try to clarify a bit more and put clear on the Washington County staff deliverable or project. What is the purpose? Why is this meaningful to have board time? What is the action being asked? Under the BCC engagement, Megan, if you could just show the pull down.
Sure.
We added some additional titles or categories, I should say. So there was one category that was just briefing, and that was very confusing. Is it a work, was that a work session topic? Is it a one-on-one briefing? Is it an email? So what you'll see is briefing is changed to email briefing, and then there's one-on-one briefings. So some items as email briefings, that means that there will be a memo or an email sent.
You're talking, where's one-on-one briefing? That's not showing up in the version I received.
This pull down?
Yeah, under board engagement.
I think
Are you looking at the one that was put in the,
Just that I sent yesterday afternoon.
that was put in the, I guess the packet, the meeting packet that's online? Because that's the one I pulled up and I don't have the drop down either. So I'm wondering if
No,
And I
the
also-
one in the packet is a PDF file. Megan's in Excel.
okay.
That's the difference. So it's going to be.
Additionally, I think currently there are no one-on-one briefings, so
It wouldn't show up in.
yeah.
So it doesn't. I'm looking at the file you sent out and one-on-one briefings does not show up
Try
in
to
the list.
select when you, okay.
So you were
Yeah.
describing that it was there, but it's not actually there.
It is a category that we can use
Okay,
in the future.
got it.
Megan, can you remind us how to get the Excel spreadsheet in which email?
It's the email from Tanya. It came yesterday and it's about all of it included a number of things.
And now when I went to the top where the actual heading is, the one-on-one doesn't show up, so I think It's dependent on, it's a fickle thing.
So another request was to work on the TBDs. And so we have assigned those throughout the year. So there's quarters and then also specific months.
So
And we can pause and help.
Tanya
navigate.
sent us an email at 4:33 yesterday.
I'll forward it to you.
Yeah, please, because it's not. May have sent it to me already, I think. We're good. You can go ahead. I see. Yep, I got him.
That's the
Okay.
what we can do is to look at quarters or of work, or if your board would like to look at certain work processes such as, for example, library governance and levies. So how would you like to walk through this?
Could we start? So first off, I'm having a little trouble with using the label board initiative because given the list of things, that's just a category of work or something,
Well, we can change that to just initiative.
whatever.
Or,
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, okay. I get activities. Okay. So how about this? What if we look at things by a quarterly view first? And then see how we might need to walk through additional work? Does that seem like a starting point?
It's fine with me, and they're currently arranged by the first column.
There's no filters on right now, so
Okay.
it
All right.
can be manipulated as you prefer.
So Megan, since we're doing this live, can you take down that sword?
Oh, sure.
And just kind of slowly walk through how
Yeah.
to pull that up?
So if you're, so I'll kind of center it there. You are able to sort any of these categories as you want or see fit. So I'm happy to start with an example of the quarter. Okay, so I'll go to quarter, and then you just select them all and choose quarter 2, and then I'm gonna select okay. So now we'll see all of the items that are in your quarter 2. We can then sort if you wanted by month for quarter 2, or by
So
initiative.
we have a slight inconsistency. Row 41 has lead department of DHS and row 42 has HHS. Is DHS Department of Housing Services? Oh, okay. Now, I recognize DHS for Department of Human Services from the state, so I'm trained now. Got it, okay. So it looks like we only have activities in the month of April. Because I picked Q2 and only April showed up.
For activities. Okay.
Yeah.
I have May, June, as well as.
But she's sorting and I'm not.
Oh,
Are you
I
sorting on
didn't,
there?
I didn't
Yeah.
expect to look at just, you're right. I brought up Q2 and then I looked under board engagement and just picked activity. And so things like in Q2, the state of the county doesn't even show up. It's a pretty big activity. So, got it. Now I'm with you. So we have activity, board meeting, budget, email briefings, executive sessions, roundtables, and work sessions. Wow, okay. Now I'm with you.
So again, let's just go back to just general, quarter two.
Okay.
I gotta get with the DHS with them. That's gonna throw me because in one case it's housing and in another case it's human services. Blah.
So I'm having a little trouble understanding what would have made this and what didn't. And like Catherine just brought up the state of the county. I don't see on here, maybe I'm missing it, the PS, our public safety and justice meeting with electeds. Is that on here?
We will make sure it's on there.
No, but so my question really is much more around criteria. And that's,
Yeah, so let's talk, criteria specifically relative to work sessions and board meetings.
okay,
You will not see proclamations.
okay,
You will not see presentations unless they're major presentations. So for example, under presentations in the future, you won't see my quarterly
No,
management report.
no, wouldn't
because
expect to.
That will be routine. You will not see consent.
Agenda items, no?
So you will see work session and board, items that are not routine.
Like, so the two things that were just discussed, the public safety and justice meeting and the state of the county would be on here.
They should be
But-
on there.
But the one you're asking about is here. It's in line 68.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay.
The way I got it is we selected. Here it is. Can I show you how I got it? Sure. We're over here,
Mhm. When-
Megan's selected Q2 for us.
Right.
And then over here, if you just select activity, that's how I found it at 68, okay? But what she's doing for us is looking at all of the things. I kept all of the board engagement for all of Q2.
Right, okay, thank you. I didn't scroll far enough to see it.
Okay. Filtering is very powerful, but it can also drive me crazy.
Yes.
But just the discussion. Yeah, I know, poor Megan. But just the discussion around criteria nonetheless was helpful to me.
Yes.
So yeah, I think staff has tried to catch all of those, what I used to call events that are affecting multiple board members.
We're trying, we
Yeah.
still may have missed something, because this is also a new tool.
Yeah,
For us.
absolutely.
And it's not automated, from another system. So do you want to just walk through Q2, or do you want to look at Q3? Because we focused a lot of time maybe on Q2 during the rolling agenda review.
Oh, I see. Have you looked to see if email briefings are balanced? So that we don't end up with multiple email briefings all coming up in the same week?
We haven't looked at that, but we can put that on the follow-up and next
Yeah.
steps and to do.
Because that's something that we reacted, or I know I reacted to early on. Staff would just send reports and expect that we would have read them. And they would send a report and not tell us what it was, their future decision it was pertinent to. Staff has advanced significantly. Okay. Now in this tool, we know there are work sessions for topics coming up. And so with email briefings, what I know I'll be counting on is the email that context of what it is. And is this an email briefing that I need to be mindful of because that subject's going to come at a work session soon. In the future, not yet on the list maybe, or in the next week or two, so that I'm able to program my time to achieve what staff needs of me. So that'll be really helpful.
So I just want to report that I looked up the Opal grand opening and found it through your system. So
Oh, great. Good.
Yeah, so
I like that, Dan.
one example of that, I want to draw your attention to the recent email. I think it was Ms. Kyle had sent you on behavioral health. It was sent and gave the clear when you would need to review it by, and there was that option if you wanted to call it for additional conversation before going to the board. There was that time. So
That just came in the last 4+ days, right? Because I haven't consumed it yet.
and that's fine, because it wasn't a turnaround and in the day. So we are trying to put that practice in place.
Cool. I would say criteria wise, thank you for raising that. The system that as chair, I've tried to make sure, or the process that I've tried to make sure we have is that if there is something where you're looking for direction or we need to make a decision, that we have the opportunity to discuss the topic as a board in a public meeting. So it's a rare thing that you should have to react to 5 individual opinions. 5 individual opinions does not a decision make. So that's all. So cool.
Okay, so, and I'm just gonna start walking through this on quarter 3. You can flag items that you may have questions on. So the first item, and this was one of the feedback areas. I was gonna say, Megan, not too quick. Is the first item is revisions to the allocation and reallocation framework policy ARPA. That is one area that we had put it a bit cleaner on what the deliverable or the deliverable is. So this is where you'll be reallocating unspent, uncommitted ARPA funds.
Can I ask a how to? So I've only have the calendar year Q2 chosen. How do I get the specific month to be in order?
Specific month.
Oh, I see April 1st, followed by May, followed by May, followed by June.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. Because it's a little weird that it jumps. You can't, it doesn't flow.
Descending or ascending.
Oh, that is interesting. I see how it's, you just have, yeah, it's not.
Can we put that on?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
do it too.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we do that. Yeah.
See, you guys, I'm not such a master Excel user. I need help too. But continuous learning.
And that doesn't happen at the toolbar above where you can associate with ascending or descending.
That is something to look into. I
Okay.
hadn't.
Let's
that-
just
okay.
put that on the.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to.
Sometimes when you start.
Yeah.
filtering,
I know nothing.
Also in July is when the capital and operating funding mechanism for Wingspan is expected to come forward. Next slide. Community engagement, the board had asked for information on the community engagement program levels of service, so this will be distributed in an email briefing. So Catherine, you figured out how to do it?
Yeah, but
Okay,
it,
so I'm gonna, so
it's weird.
okay, so if you just bear with me, I'm gonna just focus on Q3, but be kind of hopping all over the month, so that's gonna not feel quite chronological. So in September, that's when Scoggins Valley.
I'm just gonna sit,
Oh,
yeah.
Then you have a mic too. Thanks.
Oh, the view is so much better on this side of the table. No, no, no. Oh, good, I made everybody laugh.
I don't know if everyone feels that the view's always better than.
Does it feel hot to you? I think I've heard it called a hot.
It bothers them when there's a plug in.
Yeah.
So Scoggins Valley, we are undergoing the feasibility assessment. So that study is expected to come back to the board in a work session in September. An activity in July is the cat groundbreaking. Yay. Another.
Oh, the Beaverton. Yep,
Recovery
got
Center.
it. Yeah.
And then another yay activity, opening of Beaverton Permanent Shelter. Well, these are big deals.
Yeah.
It's the
Oh,
capstone of the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
And I sure hope we'll
Sorry.
be able to invite members of the SHS Oversight Committee and the members of the Metro Council. Invite all of them. Invitations matter.
Send a car.
Oh, that's terrific, you guys. We have a lot to look forward to.
so the next the next initiative is public health modernization. And this was one of the feedback of why is this coming to the board? So we were clear that her or us, the board has to make the recommendation. So hence it's coming back in work session. So we're going to try to put that level of clarity as we move forward with this tool. Library governance and funding, current service level report. So this is part of our governance process that Lisa Tattersall and team are leading. LUT planning work program. As a reminder, this is the off year, so there may be some mid-cycle adjustments. So this is just kind of a review check-in to see if we need to make any adjustments. Q3 July, North Plains UGB expansion comprehensive plan amendments coming forward to the board. In Q3, Farmington Road concept plan to work session.
Could I ask a question? As we move through the quarters, will they roll off and new be added?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so what my understanding was is that your board would like to have this presented to you 2 times a year. So at the beginning of the year and also midpoint. So when you're doing your check-ins, this would be the check-ins on this look. So staff will be working behind the scenes on continuous population.
We might have to approach it on like a 3-time a year basis. So as I was sitting here and we were looking at September, my roundtable plan document is over there. So one thing we'll need to look at is when we come back, our September roundtable really serves as that checkpoint for, okay, what's the rest of our year look like, right? And after the holiday season coming in at the January roundtable, it's like, oh, yep, it is a new year. What's it look like? So I want you, Miss Angie, with your team to have the flexibility on what I call your back end, your information set, to be continuing to make your quarterly, your rolling quarter, so that you have that yearly flow. But we may have to checkpoint either November, even that December roundtable, to get our heads around. So what does next year look like? But that January roundtable enables us, no matter what formation the board is in, from year to year, we can use it as a tool for our common mindset.
And what I'm thinking about is, when does our anxiety start to build about what's going to happen in the next 6 months? And I think that's what you're talking about too, by saying in November, we might want to just start talking about it, because I know I start to go, okay, what's going to happen?
And like last year, we all got so focused on getting the budget done by the end of the year that we may find that, oops, we've got to catch up with something in July and August, so we can't wait until September. But we also have the rolling agenda that comes to us with every roundtable. So I guess reflecting back on the tools, I'd say we're a pretty well-oiled machine. Yeah. Now, the question I have on the Farmington Road, there's a reason for that project, but I'm revealing my ignorance. I can't remember. Was this because of a grant? Is this a Metro project? Or is this one of those MISTA projects?
It's a state funded grant. Development Council.
Cool. Thank you.
Add those details.
Remember that detail, so let's see. And then, August,
What's that one? What's the one where you're on a committee, Pam? It's a Metro gig. West Side Multimodal?
WIMIS?
Oh.
West Side Multimodal.
Oh, it has an acronym.
Well, that's because Stephen calls it that.
Oh, okay. That'll show up somewhere here.
We're
done with that.
It's wrapped. We
Well-
did a report, but
Oh, but, okay.
We'll be back.
Is that one of the many emails I haven't caught up with?
We'll be back for a formal without.
Oh, okay. Terrific. Thank you.
But the TV highway one is different. So that should be here.
Yeah.
TV highway. The piece is on.
The BRT.
Yes, and I'm not sure we know a date that would be ready for that.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying
and the
that
last-
out in the future.
The next meeting got canceled as well, so yeah, there seems to be a pause that's been put on that, and I didn't know what exactly for, but yeah.
Okay. See how we use this tool? It helps us.
August, significant natural resources ordinance adoption.
So August will be an interesting month because how many of you are going to Toronto? The 3 of you? Yeah, and because of the workshop, so that's one reason why Commissioner Treese is urging us to, not only there are the base dates for that conference, but you may each have different dates. So we're gonna have some scheduling problems in August. I assume we're gonna have some scheduling problems. Okay.
Continuing with LUT, planet friendly, equitable community parking ordinance. That's a work session.
Government spends so much time on parking ordinances.
And then the transit development plan work session. I do know this is of interest to some of you. Broadband update, digital inclusion services and coordination work session. You'll see another broadband item in quarter 4 coming up. we have a work session, scheduled, for September on the jail capacity midway update. If you recall at your, work session on Tuesday, once we have, the consultant on board, we will be able to really refine a bit more, what are going to be the deliverables, but for this point.
Oh, so this is really about the consultant plan and the timeline,
it's
any
really, yeah.
adjustments. That's
We
really
just
good.
Wanted to put some placeholders
Yeah.
there,
Mhm.
that something's coming.
It's okay to use the description, to put in a little bit more description in this tool than maybe you are, or that the rolling agenda has room for, so that it helps us understand the whys and what fors. And the other thing on the prior item that you had on broadband update, this is where I'm really pleased there's such a good collection of your team in the room. Aaron Doyle, I heard, we don't have Aaron Wardell in the room, so we only have two Aarons in the room.
Otherwise, you could just say Aaron and watch them all perk up. And then decide who's going to answer the question.
So much fun.
Sorry, we're getting giddy now. I'm sorry. I heard a piece on the news that the the Access Connectivity Service, that the funding runs out. And I'm not sure if Congress, so my question is, I think it would be a great thing if we send a letter of encouragement to our federal delegation.
You have.
Oh, already? Oh,
While they were
better.
still contemplating last year's budget, back in February, you did submit letters to our senators and our Congress people. They are supportive. It just didn't make it into the
Okay.
budget packet. I'm happy to provide an update in the GR.
Oh, I don't need to make work. I'm just trying to make sure that we're being effective in serving our constituents. So see what kind of things this raises? Go ahead.
Is there a need for anything related to AOC on this? And what I'm thinking about, for example, is the District 8 meeting.
That would be one of those activities.
Yeah, I think that should go.
And the retreat
Oh.
that's
Where's that this year?
scheduled.
The AOC District 8, we're hosting again because I'm president or district chair.
Chair. Yeah.
I'm head chief.
It's on that list that we got from AOC. For different meetings, and we just got an email sometime in the last 5 days, so I have to process it, that says they did do the rebooking for the ledge
Oh, you're talking about,
committee
you're talking about the
board retreat
annual
in
meeting.
June.
Oh, they did do that too.
Yeah. I haven't caught up with the dates, but it's like a Monday, Tuesday, or a Sunday, Monday, or.
Right, as you're adopting your budget.
So I'll be
Oh,
going.
yeah,
It's
it's a
June
Monday,
17th.
Tuesday, and I was like, I'm not going on a Tuesday to
It was
miss
a
a board
hybrid
meeting.
option, so
Yeah,
you'll be adopting your budget.
yeah,
so
the likelihood of us having a short day may be slim.
They were informed.
I'm not calling into AOC at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Cool. We've got to have more going on with affordable housing projects, I think,
We
but
can sort by that.
no, don't do it
Okay.
now. Leave that to my own devices. Is Q4 in here?
Yep.
Oops.
Up the other way.
I guess it's backwards.
In November, we have levy survey development and draft proposal briefings and work sessions. I I should note, I think it's because we didn't review, Q2 in June. June? Okay. We're scheduled to have a meet showing both library and public safety timelines at that point. So this timeline conversation will make more sense as we continue through those levy conversations, but I just wanted to point that out. I look at is my memory.
No, you're getting this is a good grounding. Yeah, thank you.
We're hoping to bring the framework of an equity strategic action plan 2.0 to work session in Q4 in October. That's also dependent on our equity officer start date. Financial policies, as Greg has mentioned to your board before, we're actively working on many financial policies, so trying to bring them forward all in one package. ARPA, we have our final obligation report that'll come in a work session December. And then
That's what I was thinking of earlier on the Dave's item. Yeah, instead of the
area.
OMI, whatever that was. Yeah, cool.
So this is one that we're calling out because it is the community needs assessment results that's a really significant body of work. In this, we're making a judgment. We think that it can be appropriate for an email briefing, and then after an email briefing, if your board decides actually we want this in work session to discuss more, then it can be a work session item. But we're really trying to weigh like what needs to go to work session, what should be going to email briefing, what needs to be.
Quick question.
Yep.
Dave's community needs assessment report. Is this only for veterans?
No, this is it's really aging and yes, it's done I think every 5 years and it forms the area plan. The area
Department of Aging and Veteran Services. Okay. So this is where, as a commissioner, both I'm not going to use the right phrase, the consolidated plan and this Dave's plan are two of a small, what it seems to me, a small set of 5-year assessments that help me feel like I'm doing my job in understanding the community characteristics. I don't know if I have that proper in my head, that it's those two. We have the consolidated plan 5-year report coming up, right?
Trying to think. I don't think it's this year.
Okay.
There's also I can just
Yeah.
every 3 years there's also the public health is required to do and it's a much broader community health assessment. So AIDS is really focused on aging and the consolidated update is really about kind of neighborhood livability, and then public health is a very, very broad, general, all things that make you healthy, including we're talking a lot about social determinants.
Yeah, so this is where, Miss Angie, I'm grateful that you know all this stuff. It's all in your portfolio. But this is where organizationally for us as the board, it's part of having a foundation and a process by which we are on that journey with occasional touch points on the characteristics of our community, right? And so we have each of those significant, I'll call them people reports, right? Because they're focused on people. as opposed to concrete or asphalt, right? Hard infrastructure versus soft infrastructure. And we're also, as a county, trying to establish a new foundation with regard to the county state shared services and our level of service. What do we call that again? Service level assessment. Thank you. So what I haven't figured out for this little brain is how I take these different major pieces and do the equating to make sure, do we have things in balance or do we have some gaps overall as a county government in meeting our obligations to the state, to the feds, and addressing our community needs. But that's how my brain works in trying to get my head around what community needs and things we might need to consider. So I haven't figured out how to pull that all together yet.
I have another addition or thought, and that is new commissioner training, bringing new commissioner on. I think that needs to be some orientation.
So we'll be working on an orientation plan. I had planned on putting it on here, and then actually what I had planned to do is meet with each of the commissioners, what's helped, what would have been helpful at the time, and then runs a presentation.
The reason I mention it is that we have a date certain for that. I mean, we know the person is going to start in
January.
So I think that we need some sort of checkpoint that says here, but maybe it doesn't apply to this. But
I also respect that as people take on new jobs, that like I had some big obligations as a Metro counselor to get certain policy decisions done. We had a UGB expansion. We had a new RTP major update to an RTP to get done. So I had very limited bandwidth. So
let me think about who does her homework in my life.
okay. Touche.
Library governance and funding. This is a report phase, future-based service levels, cost, funding levels. So this is all part of the governance levy planning process.
Oh, it continued.
Yeah.
I was thinking that was the end.
No.
Oh, the year's not over yet. So we're going to have.
Darn, you're making me face reality.
So the annual housing forum activity is listed here. Office of Community Development, Fair Housing.
Could you help us a little bit on the deliverable / project? Some of these things are like a whole day versus a half day. So I think for the board, that's just a half day. For the staff with that forum, it tends to be a longer day.
So for activities, what you're asking for is under activities.
I want
Then
you
the
to
deliverable,
feel,
adding a little bit more context
yes,
at the time.
I want you to feel comfortable in that column to have a few more
Okay.
words.
Okay.
Yeah.
What line are you on?
I'm on line 36. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It wouldn't matter because I'm sorting.
So I would suggest you
Just look at Q4.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay. Next slide. Measure 110 and behavioral health. We have the CAT construction update, email briefing, dates area plan, approved prior to submission to the state. So this is one of the actions the board needs to take.
Can I ask a question on the CAT? So I've just put in my mind, okay, it opens hopefully by the end of 2025. And I know you have a contract with CODA. But I'm thinking about how at some point during 2025, I'll want to know if we have, I feel like we have a critical path now for the staffing that's needed, whether it's by Washington County or CODA. And so there's something in my gut that says I'm going to want a checkpoint on that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's that aging and veteran services gizmo again.
Rural housing policy update briefing, email briefing to the board.
Is that because the state is making us do something or because we've decided that, you know, it's BKM, it's time to do a multi-year refresh every 3 to 5 years or?
Are you on the housing policy or dates?
Oh, I'm on the housing policy, sorry. I jumped.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure. No, that's okay. Well, tune in because you're on deck. So it always happens when we get distracted with something else. Don't worry. The rural housing policies update briefing. What is the reason to do the rural housing?
It's actually part of our work program, long-range planning work program. So these are some permissible allowances in the state to allow more types of housing in rural areas, but the county has to opt in. So we want to provide you sort of an issue paper
Okay,
about the trade-offs of doing that.
okay. State enabled, county deciding what we want to do.
Exactly.
Terrific, thanks.
Additional email briefing from LUT Community Development Code Assessment Project Update. This was the second broadband kind of update for the board infrastructure initiatives options. So this is coming out of their pipeline of work. Email briefing on the Metro Urban Growth report and UGB expansion consideration. Transportation Safety Action Plan update briefing email once again. We have the annual jail tour schedule. So based on the feedback, we'll make sure to indicate this is a 4-hour day and get that scheduled as soon as possible. Hopeful that by the end of the year, we can have capacity study recommendations.
Wow, cool.
Hoping. And then we've also slated a deflection implementation update in
Right,
November.
Planning it and then there's doing it.
And that concludes the year.
I wish you guys did a real job. Still, nothing going on here.
So I think the key
Holy
questions
cow.
for the board, what would be really helpful for staff is, does this format fit your needs? We've received some more input, which is really welcomed within the staff deliverable category of how to put a finer point on that. We will change, take off board initiative and just call that initiative. Any other feedback?
Oh, I'll go first. Because I have to leave. I have a meeting upstairs. I don't mean to be a broken record with this ask, but I figured I'll ask one more time since we're having this discussion. Is there a way, or would it be problematic for the staff if we, under the BCC engagement, add a drop down, a filter drop down for policy?
That's why we have work sessions and board meetings.
That's not policy.
most of what's in here is policy.
No, it's
related.
not.
I don't understand. Can you?
So if there, so if you go to the drop down, you go activity, it brings down.
Obviously,
And then
activities and
if,
events.
and then if you go to, excuse me?
An activity is like an event. So that,
Right.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
wouldn't be
And then if you go
policy.
to work session, go to work, Megan, you're navigating this. You're doing great, by the way.
So only select work
Oh,
session.
okay.
Guess what do you?
So what of these
I'm
things are
looking
not
for-
policy?
None of these are policies. Some of them are discussions, briefings, like.
But it's about policies, right?
These are
It's
all
about discussions, not
Discussions
policies
of
or
policies.
This is, the work sessions are where we review policy recommendations, the need to develop policies, and then subsequently act on them in board meetings. All of those descriptions are trying to describe the policy-related item.
mm,
I think,
policy related items.
yeah,
Are you saying that you don't see a place for new policies?
No, I just don't see, when I do the filtering, I don't see agendas that are it's policy specific topics. We see everything, our work sessions work session encompasses conversations, broader conversations that we're having. But what in the work session agenda items would it be specific to policy directions or policy actions that we're taking? So I think it will would help me, since you asked the question, what would be helpful to individual commissioners? And this is where I feel like I'm a broken record of asking, is it would be helpful for me to utilize this tool if there was a drop down for policies as well, so that I could say, okay, these are all the policy topics coming up, and these are the policy topics we took action on, Q1, Q2, Q2.
Could you look at those right now and tell me?
yeah,
which
let's
ones are
walk
policies?
through. And then go to the top.
So,
I guess where I was going with that, Tanya, and I don't want to go through the entire list. I just said, basically, generally, could you look at this document electronically or hard copy and say, yep, we've got 17 policy things there, or we've got 3 policy things.
Well, there's policy and investment, right?
or there's a process to establish what the policy would be. So the foreclosure policy, okay, I was using the wrong keyword. The foreclosure process, that leads us to what is going to be our policy and
Mhm.
practice.
Right.
Ranked choice voting, that's really just an update of where we're at with ranked choice. So I wouldn't call that a policy item. If you go to the next one.
Well, so you don't have to go through every one of these, but all I was suggesting is if there are a few of those, you could put parentheses like underneath the foreclosure process,
I think
policy.
maybe,
So it doesn't have its own
You're right.
column.
It touches policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next one, develop levy team milestones through election. That
Wait. What's happening here?
I just
It's a
said that-
public meeting.
I have to step out.
She has to go to the meeting.
and I just said to Nafisa that I think part of this discussion on Nafisa's side is about the definition of policy and how wide that definition might be. So when I look at that list, those things inform decisions around
Yep.
policy. And I think that that's what how we see it. I don't know that Nafisa sees it that way. So I'm talking about a definition of her perception.
Yes, so that's
policy
part of
work.
the problem that we're having. She has brought up on multiple occasions that if the word policy isn't there, for whatever reason, she filters it out as though it's not part of our job. And uh,
Mm.
how we go about our work is the implementation of policy, and we have to, part of our role is making sure that the way that we have provided the employees, Ms. Angie and the organization, the tools to do the job is related to either the definition and adoption of policy or the investment of the policy. And just inserting the word policy
Doesn't do it.
no.
And I think that we look at the word policy at a 50,000-foot level. And I don't think that's the case here. And perhaps Tanya and or Brad could talk with Nafisa about that verbiage and how it's used in relationship to our work as a board.
Well, the problem we're having is that the three of us, she's chosen to leave the meeting before it's done. The three of us understand what this is all about. She's asking yet again for more staff resources to work through her mind block. And that's not a reasonable. There are only so many times that you can ask for special use of staff resources, and
Well, I kind of like Pam's suggestion of maybe you two could sit down and have a conversation about policy and how this comes into play and all of that stuff. I look at it almost from the opposite. I don't look at it to see if it's policy. I just say, that's my next homework assignment. Where are we going from here? So,
And maybe the contrast between policy and management. You know, that's,
We can have that. I think there's a few good examples on here to kind of show the timeline to get to proposals and policies. And some of the really good examples I think are relative to the levy. There's certain milestones that we have on here to get to the levies. So that.
and you're right that Commissioner Pai has not had the experience of developing a levy as a commissioner. But it's incumbent on her to use her staff assistant to get familiar with what was done leading up to the 2020 levies. So her staff assistant isn't in the room, so please make sure that her staff assistant is in that meeting that you have with her, and I'll be there if needed. But we're not going to keep revisiting this over and over again in our board meetings. It's not a good use of our time. So I think this is a really helpful tool
It's
for us
great.
to have that longer term view of what's coming. I know I'll spend more time with it to make sure that I'm doing a job that satisfies my brain, that I can fit all of this into my work schedule and go from there.
Well, and with any new tool, I want to remind you that this is an iterative process. So, really giving feedback, and I know the board's not shy on that, what works, and since it is new for us, we're learning, syncing this up to the rolling agenda. And today's conversation is really helpful because we want it to land so that we can create our internal business process so that we're aligned and that departments also understand how your work plan fits into the rolling agenda. We can streamline some processes.
Related to that, a question I hadn't thought of earlier. So we're about to soon adopt the strategic plan update, and I'm not remembering that diagram that you had about department.
Department work plans.
Yes. Do we have a role in that? I don't think we do, but I don't know. BKMs or the key measures, dashboard, all. I'm
API.
just remembering the different dots in there.
Great diagram, sorry. I get excited. So, departments are actively starting to think about their work plans. Really adoption of you adopting the budget is really a milestone to be able to finalize department work plans. We will be using as part of the quarterly management report, the input into those, work plans as one of the foundational tools into the quarterly management report information. That the work plans will also be uploaded and updated on a quarterly basis into what's called a Invisio. That's our software package that we're using for ARPA. So that will be the publicly facing dashboard.
I just want to take a minute. I know this is a lot of work that you've all done to put this together, and I recognize that it's for us, but it's really for all of us in together. I just want to roll the clock back a little bit and talk about the amount of change that we've experienced since the three of us have come on here with the from the organizational standpoint. And I want to say thank you to Catherine for really pushing the piece of your responsibility, which is managing the county agenda. And the staff has been so responsive that I feel as an individual commissioner, very well informed about where we stand, what the staff's working on, what our future is going to look like in the short term, in the midterm, and in the long term. And that makes me feel comfortable. It also makes me better at what I do in relationship to communicating with constituents. And when I look back, it's just amazing the amount of change and how much we all utilize the rolling agendas, the piece that this piece will be a new tool that we'll be using in coordination. And it is helpful. And I'm sure that to some degree, it's like, wow, the commission is never ending in their quest here, but I think it's important to have this. And I can't imagine being a commissioner in another county where you didn't have this type of rigor around what your jobs are and what's coming down the pike and what your expectations are. So I just want to say thank you for all that.
Yeah, and I hope it's a comfort to the leadership team and to all of the management staff that while all of the work that the county is delivering on, we have a great deal of respect, confidence, and trust in what's happening. So while the culture has improved a lot, One Washington County designed for the future, open and transparent, that's meant, okay, we used to only have a board that met at most half a day, and now we have a full-time commission and our public expects them. And we have a big population and a big portfolio. So this helps us make highest and best use of our time with you. But hopefully this tool will also help you realize that we trust you to do that work. You don't have to there may be implementation problems that you have, and you get to work that as the management team, right? It's only when there's really smaller things, we just learn of it through Horizons or an email. It's only when things tend to hit a critical mass that you bring it to us in leadership communication or whatnot. So your timeliness is great, whatnot. So hopefully this settles your mind too in terms of what to bring to the board as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just two quick questions. One is is this a living document? So in other words, if you put something on there, are you gonna highlight it that it's been added? So, because my computer doesn't give me the drop down thing, so I'm gonna talk to Megan about something else that maybe I can get on my new computer that maybe will give it to me, but so I'm gonna be wanting to go to a place to access this document just to see kind of coming attractions, and if there's new stuff, you're gonna highlight it.
So I
Maybe.
think that's a really good question, because we want to hear from you how you will be using it. I know we would be presenting it to the board when we talk about twice a year. This, of course, things do change in between, so we are planning to make sure that this is synced up with the rolling agendas once a month internally.
Mhm.
Because we need to continue to update this, or then it's a huge heavy lift. Those 2 points of.
One
those 2
quarter
points,
goes
yep.
away, another one comes
Yeah.
in, right?
So, what we can do is we can work with the staff assistants, figure out where the master is going, where a version can live. Because what I want to be careful about is, since this is just an Excel document, multiple versions, people accidentally deleting. So I think give us some time to work internally on how to best do that and make sure you have access to the most recent version.
Okay,
So I don't want access to the most recent version. When have you known me to not want information? You heard it here first. It's like, nope, we've established a base here, so I have a feel for what the rest of the year is going to be like. Every roundtable or every month, if we don't have a roundtable, we get the rolling agenda. So I feel like, great, I've got that visibility from 3 to 6 months, right? And Tanya, through the leadership communication, does a good job, if not at the roundtable, to highlight, ooh, we've got something new going on, right? Staff, or it comes up in work session. So I feel like I know somehow. I may not remember what the process is, but I know. But I do feel that us as a board, once we're done with summer, it's like, whoa, we need the reminder. It's like, oh crud, fun summer's over. Now we really have to get back to being real adults here. So that's where I think it's critical for us to do a similar walkthrough of what does it look like beyond Q4? What's Q1 starting to look like?
well, that's what I'm looking forward to this document.
Doing.
The most is coming attractions.
Yes, yeah. So what we're trying to figure out is it would overwhelm the heck out of me to walk through this every single roundtable and month. So that's why I've tried to think about minimal, what do we need? And so that's where I know for sure January, right? Beginning of the year. I know for sure September, and then we're gonna have to mess with the middle parts.
And I kind of like the either pre or post budget time too, just it's kind of a midpoint. It doesn't have to be a heavy hit then, but January and September, I think are the
Yeah.
times.
I use the rolling agendas that we get in June to really carry me through
This summer.
to September and onward. Yeah.
So maybe like we're doing right now in April would be a good time.
We're in April.
I said, so maybe,
Oh.
so if it were January, April and September,
Oh, yeah.
that's kind of what,
Yeah.
for me.
I think we're gonna feel our way through it this first year.
Yeah, I think as we work through this, feedback that I've heard from departments, our departments, our directors, they're amazing. And they want to make sure that they're meeting the board's expectations. So we feel far more confident 1, 2 months, even 3 months out. Then you start looking out further, and even, project plan, it gets a little fuzzy. So just as we move forward, just know, even as we're looking at a year, that.
Oh, yeah.
Quarter four,
And
like
that's what we-
things are subject.
This is
to
not
change, so
evaluative
We-
at
so
all.
I just want to underscore.
Yeah.
Underscore that, because.
It's almost like a pin in it for
Yep.
quarter, for that fourth quarter that's out there someplace, like, don't forget these.
We're working on our workflow.
Yeah.
Right? This is about us, really. How do we make sure that we're doing what we need to do?
I think it's also for me, how do I keep up with what the staff's doing? And how do I, because sometimes I feel like I'm not keeping up and,
Oh, I never have. I don't try to do that.
so,
They're light years. I just try to stop at those appropriate
times
planets or train stations.
planets is more like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big universe. So
Thank you.
that's great. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, and with that, I don't have an agenda in front of me. That was the last item, right? Great. Very successful roundtable. Thank you.
Minutes.